Pre-game show. This has been a heck of a week. It's been mainly a week of grazing. Space Hamlet, it's good to see you. I'm glad you're able to drop by. Oh, that's excellent. I by contrast, have done next to nothing else. I think I might have leveled my character twice for endurance. So my hero's journey is still to be journeyed. But yeah, it's been a week of grazing. I've continued with Jesse Graves' Merciful Days. Oh, there we go. These poems, one of which I read last week, which is just quite lovely. He does such a good job of evoking the pastoral and using it not to create sentiment, but when you sort of feel sentiment coming up, there's something that's very real and very something that contrasts that comes up and makes the sentiment mean much more than just kind of a fluffy feeling. So yeah, Jesse's awesome. Cannot recommend him highly enough. Also resumed reading this, which is The Man Who Was Sherlock Holmes: The Life of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. And this is a surprisingly quick read. And I got about halfway through it in an afternoon, and it's got a good pace. It's quite lovely, and there is a description of a particular prank during Conan Doyle's time, which is basically prefigures the water gun. Evening, Mexican Sting. It's good to see you. Is that a little Among Us, little sort of Muppet looking thing there? Anyway, hello. But yeah, so there's this prank that kids would do in the streets where they would take what is essentially a bladder of some sort, and they would fill it with water, and whenever people would get in carriages and they would step out, they would run up and they would squeeze the bladder and the water would shoot out. And as you can imagine, it was besides the fact that it's water, it's probably pretty gross because the material it's made out of. Hopefully it's leather, but who knows, because bladders. And yeah, it basically prefigures the water gun. And this was novel and scandalous, and I think that's very funny. Fall Guy. Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, and this is one of these things where it's the sign is sort of just a little outside of my what my focus is on day to day, even though it's immensely popular. Yeah, the Aqua Bladder. It's classic Super Soaker sheep organ. Other one is The Lamp from the Warlock's Tomb, John Bellairs. And this is great. This is it's interesting. This one is set in Indiana, which I find to be much less frightening than New England. New England and port cities in the South. Those are two genuine. Those are historical locations that have genuine weight behind them in terms of haunts and specters and spooks and magic. And I feel like those settings sort of help Bellairs a little more than the Midwest. The Conan Doyle biography is written by Sir John Dickson Carr, spelled C-A-R-R. Yeah, apparently Doyle was a boxer too. I did not know that. It's also very cool. This is something that I really like in encountering biographies, especially from people who have made a significant cultural mark, is that when you're tracing the course of their life, there is clearly a point. There is no point up until the moment when they become famous or they do their thing. There's like nothing in their story that would necessarily tell you that they are going to be the near legendary person in history that they're going to be. And so that part of anybody's biography is fascinating to me, because it's like up until this point there's like nothing from either a spectator or from that person's perspective that would lead them to think that they're going to be anything other than a normal person who has chosen that normal course of life, and that they will pass on with the same level of anonymity as the rest of us to anybody else a few generations on. But no, something happens, and you have your Arthur Conan Doyles. Bartitsu? I don't know what Bartitsu is. What is Bartitsu? The other one is, again, reading Kawakami. This continues to be lovely. It's a wonderful study in crippling shyness And also got this in the mail, which is Japandemonium Illustrated. This is an illustrated and an annotated edition of the very first encyclopedia of oh, you can see there, the very first encyclopedia of I keep wanting to say kaiju, and that's wrong. Monsters, the ghosts and Yurei and you know what I'm talking about. The Yokai, that's it. Right, I realized I could just like literally look in the book in my hands and it would tell me what it's about. But yeah, it's got it has the illustrations, the original 18th century illustrations. It has a translation of what the description is, and also it has commentary down here at the bottom to give a little bit of context behind it. And these are just fantastic. I think that one of the things that I like the most about it is how the soulness, the soul attribute of any given thing sort of basically changes or becomes possible once it reaches a certain age or a certain degree of intensity. My favorites so far are, let me see if I can find them offhand. Oh no, I don't have it marked. Anyway, one of them is the god of garbage. It's a little basically, if a waste pile or a little gathering of dust acquires enough, if it gets big enough and chunky enough and isn't cleaned up, then after it reaches a certain degree, it too will get a soul, basically. And I'm not sure if it is the sort of thing where it attracts the attention of an existing spiritual being, or if it itself sort of acquires a spiritual status, but the latter, I think, feels likely. The complementary spirit is a spirit of library books. So, which of course appeals to me, that if you accumulate enough books in one place, they will acquire they'll become an entity. And that level of soul making, I think, is very fascinating, and as a concept, and as a way of populating the world with wonderful and fantastic things. I do too. I really want to, let me just see if I can. A horde of haunted housewares. Yeah, there's a point where it's like he's part cataloging folk traditions, and then as he gets on into his later career, he just starts making things up, and is making things up along the lines of the rules of the game, basically. Like there are certain patterns and certain ways that these creatures kind of generally work, and as long as the created yokai sort of generally follows those rules, then it passes with an air of legitimacy, and I think that's fascinating, and I really dig that. Much in the same way that I really dig the flexibility of compounding words in English to make new words, which is something we absolutely have a right to do, and the dictionary has nothing to say about it. Basically that culture is infinitely expanding, and you as a creative individual who have inherited it absolutely have free reign to do that. So it's not just for Germans. Compound away. Really? Yokai.com. I don't think I ever noticed that before, or I'm not aware of that website, so I will look at that. Thank you. I don't know. The yokai are like they're sort of like very much like bump in the night kind of things, and also some of them apparently take on they're not just creatures, but they're sort of just phenomena. They're basically weird occurrences. So that feeling that you kind of get in an old house at night when it's settling and it's uncomfortable and you're kind of like that also fits the description of yokai. So it's neat. It's a neat category of things, and then I like digging into it. Yes, aqua bladder. I mean, just put enough aqua bladders in one place, and man, you summon that. But with that in mind, we can go ahead and start the stream.